I made a terrible mistake, and after a heated argument with my husband about it, he broke my nails. The physical pain is nothing compared to the ache in my chest. I'm 28 years old, and my name is Diane. I'm ashamed to admit how I've shattered my seemingly perfect life. My husband, William, found out about my one-night stand. It happened yesterday, and now I'm drowning in a sea of regret and fear. William and I have 2 beautiful children, a comfortable home, everything a person could want. But I've poisoned it all. Old habits, it seems, die hard. This story is messy, and it's going to make you uncomfortable. My childhood wasn't a fairy tale. My dad, a charismatic advertising executive, was brilliant at his job, constantly dreaming up innovative campaigns. He was the star until Nathan arrived. Nathan, a younger, equally ambitious colleague, started to outshine my dad, his fresh ideas capturing the attention of clients and superiors. My dad, once confident and assured, became increasingly insecure. He poured all his energy into a high-stakes pitch for a major new client, a pitch he desperately needed to win to reclaim his position at the top. But he lost. He lost the pitch, he lost his job, and he lost himself. He turned to alcohol and gambling, his frustration and despair morphing into anger. The arguments with my mum became more frequent, more volatile, and eventually violent. My mum, a gentle and submissive woman, endured it for as long as she could, but finally, she had to leave. The divorce was messy, leaving deep emotional scars. Dad left the house to Mum, but that didn't ease the financial strain or the emotional void. My mum tried her best. She juggled multiple jobs, desperately trying to make ends meet, but her lack of experience and the instability of her situation meant she was constantly starting over. In her desperation to find security, both financial and emotional, she began a string of short-lived relationships, bringing home a parade of potential new husbands. As a young girl, it was deeply unsettling. I knew she was trying to create a stable family life, but it felt chaotic and insecure. This went on for months, a revolving door of fleeting father figures, until her financial situation finally stabilized. She remarried, and for a brief period, things seemed calmer. But the arrival of my half-brother shifted her focus. I felt forgotten, pushed to the periphery of her new life. I poured my energy into my studies, determined to escape the turbulent waters of my family life. My hard work paid off when I received a scholarship to university. I was overjoyed, but my news was met with indifference by my mum and stepdad. They were preoccupied with their new family, and my achievements seemed to hold little significance for them. I left for university without a proper goodbye, a quiet escape from a home that no longer felt like mine. University was daunting, but I found solace in my roommate, Anna. We'd connected online before move-in day and quickly became inseparable. She was kind, intelligent, and fiercely loyal. Her friendship filled the void left by my family's neglect. We spent countless hours together, studying, exploring the city, and sharing our dreams and fears. She showered me with thoughtful gifts, small gestures of affection that amplified my feelings of belonging and acceptance. For a while, life was good. I focused on my studies, embraced new experiences, and reveled in the simple joy of having a true friend. But then, I began to notice a shift in Anna's behavior. She started disappearing late at night, returning in the early hours of the morning. She'd always been a dedicated student, so I initially assumed she was spending long nights at the library. But one night, driven by a nagging suspicion, I checked. She wasn't there. My unease grew, and I decided to follow her. I trailed her through the darkened streets, my heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and dread. I watched as she entered a bustling nightclub, the pulsing music and flashing lights spilling out onto the street. I was utterly shocked. I retreated to my room, the image of Anna disappearing into the club seared into my mind. She came home later, acting as if nothing had happened. I was livid, hurt, and confused. When I finally confronted her, she was remarkably calm, almost as if she'd been expecting it. "I've been waiting for you to ask me about it for years," she admitted, her voice devoid of any shame. That's when she told me the truth. She was a stripper. My initial reaction was a mixture of disbelief and disgust. How could my best friend, the person I trusted most, be involved in something I considered so degrading? But then, she planted a seed. She described the money she earned, the financial freedom it afforded her. She painted a picture of a life free from worry, a life where I could finally escape the shadow of my unstable childhood. She invited me to join her. Anger warred with desperation. I wanted to walk away, to sever ties with her and this world she inhabited. But the fear of being alone and broke, the fear of returning to the precarious existence I had worked so hard to escape, was paralyzing. I had no family to fall back on, no safety net to catch me if I fell. Against my better judgment, against every fibre of my being, I agreed. The work was difficult, to say the least. It challenged my sense of self-worth, forced me to confront my deepest insecurities. But the money was undeniably good. It allowed me to pay my rent, buy groceries, and even put some aside for the future. It provided a sense of security I had never known. I continued working at the club throughout my final years of university, the stark contrast between my academic pursuits and my nighttime activities creating a strange duality in my life. I graduated with honours, a triumph of willpower and determination. I found a small apartment near the club, a place of my own where I could finally shut out the noise and chaos of my past. After graduation, I lost touch with Anna. I didn't try to find her. Part of me felt ashamed of the path I had chosen, and I wanted to distance myself from that part of my life. For a while, things were stable. I enjoyed the financial independence, the feeling of being in control of my own destiny. Then, disaster struck. The club was shut down due to some licensing issues. My carefully constructed world imploded. I was terrified, the fear of financial ruin gripping me like a vice. I managed to secure some temporary financial assistance, but it was barely enough to cover my basic expenses. One afternoon, while grocery shopping, I bumped into Anna. It felt like a scene from a bizarre movie. She was stepping out of a gleaming luxury car, dressed impeccably, the epitome of success. Seeing her triggered a wave of envy and self-pity. She, of course, recognized me, and oblivious to my inner turmoil, started chatting. I plastered on a smile and pretended everything was fine, not wanting to burden her with my problems. Luckily, I was dressed well enough that she bought my act. When she asked about my car, I concocted a story about it breaking down and being towed for repairs. The lie flowed effortlessly, a chilling reminder of how easily I could slip back into deception. Desperate to regain my financial footing, I made a devastatingly poor decision. I started dating older, wealthy men who could provide for me financially. It was a dangerous and morally compromising path, but I felt trapped. The money started flowing again, and I fell back into the seductive trap of material possessions, the fleeting comfort of luxury goods. I bought a new car, expensive clothes, and indulged in extravagant shopping sprees, trying to fill the emptiness inside me. Then, amidst the whirlwind of my reckless spending, I met William. It happened during a shopping trip. Completely oblivious to the fact that someone had planted stolen merchandise in my bag, I was nearly apprehended for shoplifting. As security approached, a man stepped forward and intervened. He'd witnessed the entire incident and, as it turned out, had been tracking the real shoplifter for weeks. He was a police officer. His name was William, and he had just saved me from a potentially disastrous situation. He took the real culprit into custody, and sensing my distress, gave me his card, telling me to call if I needed anything. His kindness, his genuine concern, struck a chord within me. In that moment, surrounded by the superficial trappings of my fabricated life, I felt a flicker of genuine connection. We started meeting as friends, He was kind, funny, and refreshingly down to earth. He saw through the designer labels and expensive car, sensing the insecurity and vulnerability beneath the surface. He encouraged me to be honest, to be myself. He challenged me to be a better person. I continued my arrangements with the older men, even though I felt a growing sense of guilt and unease around William. But the allure of financial security was difficult to resist. One day, William called and told me he had a surprise. My heart fluttered with hope. Perhaps this was it, the moment he would finally confess his feelings. He did. He told me he liked me, more than liked me, and asked me to be his girlfriend. Overwhelmed with relief and a burgeoning sense of love, I promised myself I would leave my other life behind, once and for all. I confessed everything to him, every sordid detail of my past. And to my astonishment, he didn't judge me. He understood the difficult choices I'd made to survive. He made me promise to never go back, and I meant it with all my heart. Our relationship deepened. He was everything I had never had: kind, loving, supportive, and completely devoted to me. He made me feel safe, cherished, and worthy of love. He introduced me to his family, who welcomed me with genuine warmth and acceptance. For the first time in my life, I felt like I truly belonged. A few months later, in a moment of pure romantic bliss, he proposed. I said yes without a moment's hesitation. I didn't tell my mother about the wedding. The years of silence and neglect had created a chasm between us that seemed impossible to bridge. I told William I had no family, and he accepted it without question. The wedding planning was a whirlwind of activity: dress fittings, cake tastings, venue visits. William's sister, Claire, a warm and bubbly presence, stepped in as my bridesmaid. Finally, the big day arrived. I woke up feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Claire was there, helping me get ready, radiating calm and support. As I stepped out of the bath, she gently pulled me aside, a serious expression on her face. My makeup was flawless, my light blue ombre wedding dress, a dream. Claire had even crafted a delicate tiara for me. Perfumed and ready, we set off for the ceremony. Walking down the aisle towards William, who looked incredibly dashing in his blue suit, felt surreal. He gazed at me with such love, whispering sweet nothings as I reached him. We exchanged vows, and just like that, we were husband and wife. The reception was a joyous celebration, filled with laughter, dancing, and well wishes. The next day, we embarked on our honeymoon, a whirlwind tour of exotic locales. We explored ancient ruins in Mexico, marveled at the vibrant culture of India, and experienced the thrill of new adventures together. It was pure bliss, a dream come true. Our honeymoon was cut short, however, when William was called back for an urgent case. He was one of the most talented officers on the force, so it wasn't entirely surprising. I was disappointed, but I understood. His dedication to his job was one of the things I admired about him. Back home, William threw himself into the case, which he resolved with impressive speed. 2 months after our wedding, we discovered I was pregnant, with twins. We were overjoyed. William treated me like a queen. He showered me with gifts, catered to my every whim, and even took over the cooking. The sonogram confirming the twins was one of the happiest moments of our lives. He was incredibly attentive, accompanying me to every doctor's appointment. Having him by my side made the experience even more special. The day I went into labour, however, William was on duty. The pain started gradually, and I initially dismissed it as the baby's kicking. But it intensified quickly, becoming unbearable. I called William, but he didn't answer. Panicked, I called emergency services. They arrived quickly and had to break down the door because I was too weak to open it. The last thing I remember is a paramedic's reassuring face telling me everything would be all right. I woke up in the hospital to the sight of William holding 2 tiny bundles, a boy and a girl. He beamed at me, radiating joy. My babies were beautiful, with William's striking blue eyes and my blonde hair. I'd had a cesarean section and needed to stay in the hospital for a few days to recover. William took leave from work to care for me and the newborns. We named our twins Ronnie and Rita. Time flew by, and soon their first birthday arrived. William threw a huge party, complete with 2 cakes and a house full of guests, including his family. It was a wonderful day, filled with love and laughter. And that's where things started to get complicated. I met one of William's friends, Zach, who had recently returned from abroad. He was undeniably attractive, and for some reason, I felt drawn to him. He seemed to reciprocate the interest, lingering after the party to chat. He complimented me, telling me I looked amazing, especially considering I'd just given birth. His words, though seemingly innocuous, sparked something within me. He was charming and charismatic, and he invited me to lunch the next day. I spent the next morning getting ready as if I was going to a party, a stark contrast to the sweatpants and messy bun I'd been sporting since the twins were born. William was at work, and the kids were at daycare, so I had the day to myself. When I arrived at the restaurant, Zach was already there waiting for me. He watched me intently as I approached, and then, with a gentlemanly flourish, he pulled out my chair. The gesture, so small yet so significant, fueled my growing infatuation. I ordered something light, acutely aware of his gaze on me throughout the meal. After that lunch, we started seeing each other secretly. We spent hours together, talking, laughing, and eventually sleeping together. Zach was undeniably more physically appealing than William. Taller, more muscular, with the same striking blue eyes and blonde hair that complemented his fair skin. He was also a skilled and attentive lover. Our affair became a routine. I would sneak out, telling William I was going shopping, and spend the afternoon with Zach. Our secret rendezvous continued for 6 months. Then, Zach dropped a bombshell. He was leaving. He was returning abroad to marry his long-term girlfriend. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. He'd used me, he explained, a way to pass the time while his girlfriend was away. I was his fun, his distraction. His words stung, a cruel confirmation of my deepest insecurities. I had been foolish, naive, and easily manipulated. When he left, the loneliness returned, amplified by William's demanding work schedule. Even though William had become more attentive, more physically affectionate, I still craved something more, something illicit. I yearned for the thrill of the forbidden, the escape from the monotony of my domestic life. I started looking for other men, other distractions. It was a dangerous path, a path I knew could destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. Then, William's mother, bless her heart, suggested we take a romantic getaway, a chance to reconnect and rekindle the spark in our marriage. She offered to watch the twins, took the kids to Disneyland. The kids were thrilled, of course, and William seemed genuinely happy about the opportunity for some quality time together. He saw it as a chance to reconnect, to rekindle the romance. I, however, saw it as an opportunity. While William worked night shifts, I frequented clubs, engaging in a series of meaningless one-night stands. The thrill of the forbidden, the temporary escape from the pressures of motherhood, and the lingering emptiness within me, fueled my reckless behavior. William started becoming suspicious. He began coming home unexpectedly, catching me off guard a few times. I'd lie, claiming I'd been out shopping, but the seed of doubt had been planted. To avoid getting caught, I started inviting my companions home. It was a risky move, one I now deeply regret. It seems William's suspicions had grown to the point where he'd installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. I was blissfully unaware, lost in the moment, when my latest conquest came over. We were engaged when it all came crashing down. The next day, William's voice, thick with rage, echoed through the house. He roared my name, pacing the living room like a caged animal. My stomach plummeted. I knew instantly that I was caught. He confronted me with the recording, the undeniable proof of my infidelity. He screamed, called me ungrateful, every word a dagger to my heart. In a moment of panic, I tried to snatch the phone from him, intending to smash it, to erase the evidence of my betrayal. It was a desperate, impulsive act, and it had devastating consequences. In the struggle, my hand, with its perfectly manicured nails, got caught. 2 of my nails, meticulously crafted and expensively maintained, snapped, tearing my real nails beneath. The pain was sharp, intense, but it paled in comparison to the agony of William's disgust. He left me sobbing on the floor, retreating into the silence of our shattered home. I was lost, consumed by shame and regret. He called his parents, asking them to return from Disneyland with the kids. I knew this because his parents called me, their voices cold and disapproving. Then came the call from his lawyer. Divorce. I begged William to reconsider, to forgive me, but he was resolute. He asked me, point blank, if I had ever made him feel inadequate, if he had ever failed to satisfy me. Humiliated, I admitted that he hadn't. His voice hardened, laced with a bitterness I had never heard before. Then why? He demanded. Why did you do this? I couldn't answer. I didn't know. He thrust the divorce papers at me, telling me to sign them and be ready for court. I had no choice. The court proceedings were swift and brutal. I wasn't awarded a penny, and most devastatingly, I was denied custody of my children. I broke down, sobbing uncontrollably, but no one offered comfort. I was utterly alone. When I went to see the twins at William's parents' house, his mother and Claire were cold and dismissive. They told me, in no uncertain terms, that I was not welcome near my children. The shame was unbearable. I left, tears streaming down my face, as they laughed and played with Ronnie and Rita. I had nowhere to go. I ended up at a women's shelter, the harsh reality of my situation crashing down on me. I would have to find work, any work, to support myself. My life, once filled with luxury and ease, had been reduced to this: broken nails, a broken marriage, and a broken heart. William, I knew, would be fine. He would thrive. He had his career, his family, his integrity. I had nothing. I had destroyed everything through my own selfishness and recklessness. I had betrayed the trust of the man who loved me, the man who had saved me from myself. My story is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of infidelity and self-destructive behavior. I made my bed, and now I must lie in it. I only hope that someone, somewhere, can learn from my mistakes. Don't take your marriage for granted. Don't chase fleeting pleasures at the expense of true love and commitment. Be content with what you have and cherish the people who love you. Because once it's gone, and the price you pay may be more than you can bear.